Yeah, I think we can start in 5 minutes. Just wait for a few more to dial in. There's some ambassadors who have replied saying they can't make it at 10, but that's okay because we're going to record this webinar anyway, and then we'll send it to the rest of the ambassadors.
For Savannah and Keely, how did you guys find out about Abillion?
Of course, through Garth. Yeah, and gosh, I started last year and I can't believe how many views I've done since there. And yeah, I can't imagine going back.
Yeah, I'll have to say Garth as well. I think he's influenced most people in South Africa.
I've actually just sent an email shouting at someone else who should be here, who's only just seen the email now, so they're jumping on board as well. It's either influence or bullying. I think there's a very fine line between influence and bullying.
Is this time okay for you guys at South Africa, or should we have done it later? What would have been the ideal time?
I think the time difference is what the real problem is. You know, I mean, the best time would probably have been like early evening, like 6 o'clock or so, only because a lot of people are at work around this time. But obviously, that's what time is that for you? That's like 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, which is impossible.
Yeah, I think around after midnight, right, Suta?
Yeah, it's 6 hours, right, difference.
Because it's 4 p.m. now in Singapore.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I don't think there's an ideal time anyway.
Yeah, maybe one of these days we will wake up until midnight and do one.
Please don't. That's torture.
I'm used
no,
to.
look at them all. They're all so young. They can easily go out clubbing, come home, and then do the webinar.
Yeah.
Sorted.
Clubs aren't open, unfortunately.
Okay.
Or fortunately. Depends how you see it. I know like a couple of us have taken like early morning calls or late night calls because of the people in the US especially. So like for myself, I've had to take calls from our nonprofit partners in the US. So that's usually at like 6:30 a.m. I've usually done that a couple of times. I'm a morning person, so that's why it's like better.
That's what coffee was invented for. Coffee fixes all
all problems. And I know like some of them who's like, for example, Maka, she speaks to the ambassadors in South America, which I think she does usually late at night. So it's like 10 p.m., 11 p.m.
Yeah, actually the difference is quite 12 hours average. So yeah. Anyway, nice to meet you, everybody.
Hey, Catherine, how are you?
Hi, sorry, I didn't know this was happening. We've been very busy with uni work here, so
No
Tristan's
worries.
actually at university, so he is not here.
No,
so.
You made it.
Yeah.
Maybe I can get started and Sarah can just add them in as they come along.
Yeah.
Good morning to everyone. So my name is Trishvini. I'm from Abillion and I'm joined today by Sarah as well, who manages our ambassador program here at Abillion. So just going through our agenda today, we'll be introducing what is Abillion and what is our ambassador program specifically, touching on our nonprofit partners, specifically our South African nonprofit partners. And then we'll be having a little bit of an interview session with Garth, who's popularly known as CapeTownVegan, as well as Nicky from Greyton Animal Sanctuary, who's actually the founder of Greyton Animal Sanctuary. And then we'll cap it off with some major feature releases and our campaigns and a question and answer section for you guys. So I'll just hand it off to Sarah.
Thanks, Josh. So I think everyone here, hopefully you guys are very familiar with Abillion already. Hopefully you guys have posted some reviews, redeemed a few donations through Abillion, and even used our new feature, social posts. So what is Abillion? Simply put, we make vegan easy for everyone. So anyone can review a vegan dish from any vegan restaurant or any vegan and cruelty-free products from any brand. So our mission is really to help people live more sustainably and make consumers make more conscious choices when they're shopping. So every review really helps a member searching on the app to find a vegan or sustainable dish and products. So the impact of every review, something that most people might not know or be surprised to know about actually, is that 60% of our members of the Abillion community actually identify as omnivores and flexitarians. So they're not vegans, they're not vegetarians, and thousands of these members go on the app every day, tap on Explore, and look for vegan food and product recommendations. That is why every review is so important on Abillion. And today we have members in over 150 countries who use the app to find sustainable options and vegan dishes. So we have 60 nonprofit partners worldwide. I think some of you might recognize the bigger ones like Sea Shepherd, Mercy for Animals. But today the focus is, of course, our South African nonprofit partners. So I think you guys are very familiar with Greyton Animal Sanctuary. We also have Ashes Farm Sanctuary and Pigs and Paws. So we have donated over 865,000 rand to our South African animal sanctuaries to date. And besides our animal sanctuary partners, over the last year, we also added some impact partners in other segments. For example, one of our nonprofit partner, Room to Read, they provide education for girls in developing countries. So every review, every dollar will provide education and buy books for these girls in these second, third world countries. Some of our other partners, like for example, Vegan Outreach, Lebanese Vegans, who it's co-founded by Seb Alex, also one of our ambassadors actually, and Surge by Earthling Ads, who's also our ambassador. So they work hard to provide education and provide knowledge to people and try to help them to go vegan and make more conscious choices. We also have One Tree Planted to help the environment. So now every review that we make, every dollar that we donate plants a tree somewhere in the world. Cool. So the ambassador program, we launched our ambassador program about 2 years ago, actually. And as you guys will know, every review that we post, we donate $1 to the member's choice of nonprofit partner. But also every member that we refer, every time they post a review, you also get 25 cents on the dollar that they for every review that they post. And right now, actually, we have the Double Comms campaign for ambassadors. So instead of 25 cents, US 25 cents per review, we are giving 50 cents per review for our ambassadors all the way up until the end of September.
So yeah, I'll be taking over from here. So we're going to be having a little interview session with Garth and Nicky. So I'm just share the screen. So starting with Garth, also known as CapeTownVegan, maybe you can give a little introduction before I dive into my questions.
I can give a little introduction. You can give a little introduction. There's not much to there's not much to introduce. I became vegan 6 years ago now. Actually, August was my 6-year anniversary. I became vegan at a time in South Africa when I believe veganism was in its infancy. There were very few restaurants, there were very few options in stores. And I sort of found the username or handle CapeTownVegan. I made what was a very little website, made a Facebook page, and I did all of that just to sort of track and document places in and around Cape Town that had very few vegan options. And I think the trend from that point, I started at the right time, because the trend picked up astronomically to a point now where I can't keep up with all the delicious food offerings in and around Cape Town and South Africa. I was mentioning earlier to Kaylee how the food options in Johannesburg are just absolutely exceptional. So my full-time job is that of a lecturer, completely unrelated to veganism. So everything to do with veganism is sort of a passion project, really, or some sort of side hustle. And I became vegan because, and a lot of people might not believe the story, I saw a fortune teller or card reader, and in 2015, and she told me I was going to become vegan. And at the time, I was very carnivorous. I'd never eaten tofu or quinoa or any one of those kinds of things. That scared me. And overnight I became vegan. I just sort of gave up. My body stopped craving meat, and just something sort of shifted, a bit of a paradigm shift. And everything I saw was no longer food, but it was some form of sentient being, which I'm sure all of you can now identify with. So yeah, that's my not so brief introduction.
Thank you for sharing, and happy vegan anniversary.
Thank you.
How did you first find out about Abillion?
I actually haven't shared the story with any of you before. And it's actually a very embarrassing story. So I'm going to share it now for the first time. True story. Someone in South Africa, a Frenchman who had moved to South Africa, had been in contact with Vikas, who's obviously the founder of Abillion, and had contacted me via email and said, I'd like to connect the two of you. I think this would be a great fit. Vikas is doing this sort of this app thing that will raise money for animal sanctuaries. And this was a very long time ago. And I get a lot of those kinds of emails virtually every single day, people with ideas or suggestions. So I was like, hi, nice to meet you. We'll chat sometime. And I completely forgot about it. And then out of the blue, it is actually my partner, Matt, who my followers all know as Bay. Matt actually said to me, have you seen this amazing thing called Abillion? So I was like, it sounds very familiar. I think someone told me about it ages ago. This was when it had just come out. And he started doing reviews and donating money. And he kept saying, you have to join it. You have to join, you have to join it. So I was like, oh, this is so annoying. So I eventually, I think actually I got an email from Abillion before I actually even joined the app, which is incredibly embarrassing. But I joined the app and I've done, I think, 300 odd reviews, which is not that much compared to what other people have done. But that was my introduction. That goes way back before the app was sort of even first available to the public.
Cool, thank you. I actually didn't know that either, that you're like an OG of the OG stuff like.
So embarrassing.
What has your ambassador journey been like so far? And what does being an Abillion ambassador mean to you?
Honestly, the journey has been incredibly simple. And I'm not saying this because all of you are sitting in front of me, staring at me. It's very seldom that I've been involved in any kind of project, paid, unpaid, charity, whatever, nonprofit. I've never been involved in a project where the pioneers of the project or the team behind the project are so passionate. So what's really nice for me is it makes me feel like I want to invest time and energy into Abillion, because for argument's sake, there are two things that really, really impress me. And I'm not easily impressed, to be honest. The first thing is that you guys provide us with resources. So often a charity or nonprofit will say, we want your help, will you do something for us? But then there's nothing from their side to actually, even something as simple as designing a graphic, which I have zero creativity or skill. The ambassador dashboard, the resources that you provide, the video content, the competitions, the money to give our followers in terms of competitions, all those kinds of things are really valuable to me because it saves me time and it actually makes me excited to be able to partner with Abillion. So I think the journey has been incredibly easy. And I think the thing about the project that I like the most is I feel empowered to make a difference. You know, it's very, sometimes when one is working all the time, one is incredibly busy, one doesn't actually have time to be hands-on. And I feel like with, especially over lockdown, which obviously happened worldwide, a lot of us had more time to spend on our phones. So the entire concept of being able to sit in a chair and review something and actively see that you've raised money, and then you can actually physically choose where that money goes. And then you can actually follow that organization like Nicky at Greyton, and Nicky will post, this is how much money I have earned in a month. That makes me feel empowered, not only as an ambassador, but as a user of the app as well.
Thank you so much for sharing that. What is your favorite thing about the Abillion community and I guess being an ambassador of it?
Well, I think that's quite an easy one because the problem with so much social media and apps and that kind of thing is that you never quite know what the focus is. So let's say you're a passionate Instagrammer or you're a passionate influencer or you're creating content or you're working for a cause, you never quite know what the outcome is. You never quite know what the direction is or who your audience is or how people are going to perceive you. I feel like the app is so focused on what the outcome is. And that in itself is so great that the entire community can come together and go, this is what we need to do. It's very simple. It's a very simple outcome. And that sort of means that the platform itself and the people who contribute towards it, there's no sort of hidden motives of any sort. There's no confusion. There's very little emotion involved. It's a very simple directive. Everyone comes together. Everyone reviews food. Everyone donates money. Everyone does something positive. And I think that's being part of that kind of community that's very focused is amazing. I think everyone can be, feel proud to be part of that.
Yes, thanks for sharing that as well. What are your top tips for all of our ambassadors here in terms of just being an Abillion ambassador?
Do you know, I have been thinking about this, and I think it's quite a difficult answer. I think something did come to me very briefly yesterday, and that's persistence. I mean, I know like a lot of you will laugh, people who have been following me, about how regularly I post about the app. And I was joking and saying there's a very fine line between influencing and bullying. But people have jokingly messaged me to say, okay, you've bullied us enough. I've downloaded the app. What do I need to do now? So I think persistence genuinely does make people at some point, I suppose it's like vegan activism as well. If you keep on planting the seed the whole time, someone at some point will get hooked. And the reason I say this is yesterday, a very good friend of mine, who was a follower of mine on Instagram 4 or 5 years ago, and has been following me ever since we've become very good friends. He messaged me yesterday to say, I just want to let you know, you've officially influenced me. I'm downloading the Abillion app. What is your referral code? I want to be a good human. And I thought that was so sweet. And this was like a friend of mine. And I thought it's only because I've consistently kept posting the whole time. I think the biggest difficulty as an ambassador is remembering to post yourself. Like for me, that's the thing that I struggle with the most. I have to keep reminding, I actually have it on my to-do list every day, is to find a photograph of something and to post it myself, and then to share that with people and say, look, if I can do it, I'm not just bullying all of you into doing it or asking very nicely or reminding you to do it. Persistence, that's my only tip, because yes, anyone can create incredible content around it. You can show people how easy it is. I'm sure all of you are far more creative and skilled than what I am. My gift is probably persistence.
Yeah, I think my favorite hashtag that I've seen so far, even on Abillion, is hashtag CapeTownVegan made me do it. So I think persistence is definitely a strong point.
Even my family uses it now.
And my final question is, what is your top 3 favorite vegan restaurants or brands in South Africa?
I never like to answer this question because I feel like it's unfair on all the other places. And I also feel like it changes with my mood. So this is not a plug. I promise it's not a plug. But what I did on my website, www.CapeTownVegan.com, is I created a top 5 list. It's not a plug. I created a top 5 list, but on that top 5 list, I subdivided it into categories. Because, like sometimes if you feel like a good breakfast, what are the best breakfast spots to go to? Or if you feel like good Mexican food, or you feel like a pizza, or you feel like a burger or something healthy. So I sort of did that on the website to help answer that question whenever people ask me, because it really does depend on one's mood, surely, and like what cuisine you feel like, and whether you feel like junk food or healthy food and that kind of thing. The list does change all the time because then I feel guilty. So then I sometimes swap the order of things around on the website to not make some of the restaurants feel like they're on the 3rd spot when they could be on the 2nd. But that's a secret, you're not allowed to tell them.
I think that's also a good indication that there's so much vegan options that you can't really choose from any one product or brand or restaurant. And there's something out there for any mood that you're having. And I think that's a very strong thing that maybe a couple of years ago may not have been true. Like you said, when you first started.
Yeah.
Versus now. It's a good problem to have.
It's a great problem to have.
So yeah, thank you. If you got any questions for Garth, we'll address them at the end of
thank you.
The end of it. Next, we're bringing up Nicky. Nicky is the founder of Greyton Animal Sanctuary in Greyton. Maybe Nicky, you want to give a little introduction to yourself?
Right, yes, I'm a Brit who came over here 22 years ago with my late husband. We were here for 4 years before he passed away, just as swallows coming and going, mainly to avoid the British winters. And after he passed away, I live here in Greyton, and I had been a charity management consultant for 25 years, and I felt that with the pension that my husband left me, I could now devote my life to working here in South Africa, where there's so much need for causes that maybe otherwise couldn't afford a person like me. So that's how I started my life in South Africa. And I should also say I was raised in Singapore. My dad was in the Air Force, so I have a connection with you guys because of that. I spent 7 years in my youth, and it was just the most enchanting childhood. Singapore was mostly jungle then, so you can imagine what a life it must have been for a kid.
Cool, very internationally lived. So what is it like running a sanctuary, and what is your typical day? I know in sanctuaries, whenever I've asked this before to other partners, they're like, there are no typical days. But what is a typical day at Greyton?
Because drama becomes typical in a sanctuary. So we always we never know quite what the drama is going to be, but we do know there is going to be one. There's 220 rescued farm animals here, and many of them are heavily compromised because of where they were rescued from. And also, farm animals are not expected to live beyond the age of 8, 9 months, 10 months. Even the brood animals that are used for breeding don't last beyond 3, 4, 5 years. And when they live longer than that, it creates a host of problems that we struggle to work with, because they're not covered in vet school, because vet college is all about training people to look after production animals, not a sheep who's going to live to the age of 16 or 17, or a pig that's going to live to 12, or even in the case of our lovely bush pig, Rusty, who lived to the grand old age of 22. They also don't live very long, the production pigs. Rusty was a natural pig, pigs that have been selectively bred to grow long and put on lots of meat. Some species, as an example, often get problems. Congenital heart disease is a big one because their hearts actually don't develop at the same size as their knees. And so they have quite small hearts and lungs. So we are always prepared for drama on the sanctuary. There's always something that happens. So we actually roster it in. I know that I've got 8 or 9 hours to do various duties. And then I always say, right, I must make sure 3 hours where I'm not doing anything. And if nothing happens, it's a bonus. But my car is full of petrol. The underneath the canopy at the back is full of straw, and I'm ready to go if anything happens. So we do have a sort of typical day, but it starts at about 6:30. And then we feed all the pigs between 7 o'clock and 7:45. There's this horrible screaming noise that sounds like the gates of hell have been opened and all the tormented and tortured souls within are screaming for mercy. That's how bad it is. Some people call it singing, but it's not. It's shrieking. And when you've got 110 pigs all screaming for food, it's quite a noise. And then we make sure that the goats and the sheep and the cows who are out in our 40 hectares of space are fine. In the summer, we tend to supplementary feed them because we get very burnt out here in South Africa, whereas our winters are quite lush and green. So at the moment, there's a lot of greenery, so we don't need to do much except check them. And then our medical rounds start, and we've usually got about 20 animals that need quite a lot of medical care. And also our babies need supplementary feeding. So that goes on all through the day until 3 o'clock when the pigs get fed again. And then we have more stuff to do towards 7, 8 o'clock at night. And then we manage to sit down and eat because we have, again, the babies to put to bed, the special medical needs animals to make comfortable. And at this time of year as well, with snow on the mountains, some of our more compromised pigs who don't have much mobility need to be tucked into deep beds of straw. And they also need to maybe have blankets thrown over them, and some even have hot water bottles.
That's exactly how pigs in blankets should be. Warm in actual hot water bottles and actually in actual blankets. So we've already donated over 30,000 US dollars, which is about 430,000 rands to Greyton since you guys joined us. I think it's coming to almost 2 years now. So what have you been able to do with these funds that you've received from our giving program?
Well, we've been able to plan a bit more because the funds are fairly regular. As long as we work hard to generate reviews, and we know we have to do our bit, and that's our responsibility. Regular funds for any non-profit organization is like gold dust. It's absolute gold dust because if you know something's going to come in, and it could vary a lot between $1,000 and $3,000, but even having that much to rely upon enables us to plan. And that's been the biggest thing, the biggest impact we've had, because it's meant we've been able to expand some of our work in the community, as well as looking after our animals. We've been able to work in the community. And for example, we've managed to persuade 3 farmers now to stop farming pigs, surrender them to the sanctuary, and start farming plants instead. And that's been a massive success. And the transformation in the farmers has been quite extraordinary. It's heartwarming to see these quite tough and hard men and then one woman become soft and open and gentle because they're no longer doing something that deep down inside they actually hated doing. We've also been able to expand our humane education program. We're working on developing we've managed to, with another charity, get vegetable gardens in each of our 6 schools. And we're now starting to work with the cooks, a vegan chef, is going in and talking to them and telling them how to instruct the gardener what to grow and to take what comes out of the garden and make it for the children. Because the children on feeding schemes, they really have very bad diets. The food is the cheapest of the cheap, and it's quite horrible, and no greens or vegetables in sight. So we've now changed all of that, and the children who most need this stuff are getting it. And they're creating in young minds an awareness of that to create food security for themselves and their families into the future, they just need to grow vegetables and eat them. And we're telling them they can survive perfectly well on plants alone. They don't have to buy expensive meat. They don't need meat for protein. So we can give children this information which goes against the grain of everything they're ever seeing. But this is a program that is, it proves, it shows, it doesn't tell like advertisements do. It shows, it demonstrates that youngsters can live perfectly well on a plant-based diet.
Cool. Thank you for sharing, Nikki. I think that's really important to highlight that, you know, even though we're writing reviews and just reviewing and making donations, it's not just about funding what's currently needs to be happening in terms of donation, but it frees up more time for the people at the sanctuaries and the volunteers to kind of go beyond, and causes a ripple effect almost. It's like you write a review, your donation helps them,
Yeah.
and then now you have more time to do the activism work, which is going out and talking to schools, talking to farms. I think it's kind of all the things that kind of need to happen, not only just finding more vegan options, but it's like you say, it's with farms, trying to convince farmers to make the change, as well as schools to kind of introduce this topic and change everyone's mindset. So that's really amazing to see. So what are your future
Well,
plans?
we can't just save animals. We can just save animals. Of course we can, and every animal's life is worth the effort. But their role here on the farm as ambassadors is very limited to the number of people who can actually get up here, and obviously the people we reach through social media. But if we can use the farm as a springboard for projects like that, where we can move into a community and make a huge impact, and we monitor and evaluate everything we do, and we share it widely. So now the Department of Education is very interested in what we're doing with the school meals project. They're very interested in our humane education project. They want us to help them to introduce humane education into teacher training institutions and into the courses at university. So abillion made this possible. We would just be rescuing animals if it wasn't for abillion, and that's great. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I started doing. But to be able to actually influence people to change their whole lifestyle from cruelty to compassion, well, that's been down to abillion.
Yes, thank you, and thank you to everybody. I mean, Garth has obviously played a huge role as well in South Africa, and getting all these people who kind of come in hordes and really supporting it. So it's been really beautiful to see this change over the last couple of months and years. So what are your future plans for Greyton, and what do you hope to achieve going forward?
Well, with our program that we've been able to get going, we were very gifted about 2 years ago with about the same time as we joined abillion. It was one of those magic few months where we had some visitors here from England who came, two people, and they had a look around, and I gave them quite a long tour. And at the end of the tour, they said, look, we don't have any money on us, but like a donation. Now, I've heard that a lot of times. And about a few days later, 5,000 Rand came into our account. And I was overjoyed. I went leaping and whooping through the farm, thinking this was the most brilliant thing ever. And then I had mentioned to them that we would really love to have a barn, a big, big multi-purpose barn that would not just be for our most vulnerable animals, but would also be for humane education, for agricultural resource center for farmers transitioning to farming with plants, a volunteer space, a demonstration kitchen, and all of that. So about 2 months later, after a bit of paperwork, £50,000 dropped into our bank account just from that one visit. And that was said it was to go towards the barn, and that they hoped that South Africa would be able to contribute an equal amount, because it's a big, big space. It's 25 meters by 15 meters. It's got a mezzanine floor, and we'll be able to do a lot in it, because at the moment our programs that we're running, we feel like we've got a ship, a full sail, a competent crew, and a clear sense of direction, but we've got no port. We've got no base, no solid space where we can bring people like teachers into that space and teach them about humane education, give them a nice solid vegan meal, and then take them through the barn to the animal section and get them to know some of our pigs and our lambs and our goats and our cows, and see what, that farm animals are actually individuals, sentient, emotional, intelligent beings that deserve a lot more respect and consideration than they're normally given. And we also need a space for our volunteer program, because we would like to have a slightly more upmarket program where we can charge, and that would then pay for us to have a barn mother who would make sure that everybody behaves themselves, the volunteers behave themselves in the barn, the animals are properly looked after, and she will be the one who takes the school meals program, because she is a vegan chef. She will take the school meals program much further and really work on it and get it spread around schools throughout the Western Cape and further afield. So also we can bring farmers up here, the backyard farmers who are keeping pigs in terrible situations, and show them how should be kept, and help them to transition to farming more compassionately. And also we'll have vegan cooking demonstrations. So that's why we need this barn so desperately. And of course, just as we started building, COVID hit. The price of steel went up by 300%, but fortunately we had installed most of the steel. But it did see us me through a very dodgy auction with 50,000 rand in my back pocket, standing there with a whole load of men trying to buy the remaining steel that we need to finish the steel part of the construction. Fortunately, I managed to get what I needed and bring it back at almost the same price as we had pre-COVID. So that bit is all done, thank goodness. But the price did go up quite a bit, and we have used up our entire budget a little bit earlier than we thought. We thought we would have the floor down and we'd have the foundations to do it straw bale like the rest of the farm, because it's a beautiful environment for animals and for humans to live in, nicely insulated, plenty of air circulation, free enough, it's a good environment. So we just need to raise that money again. But what we're looking for during September is just to raise enough money for the next phase, which will then keep us busy for the next 4 months or so, during which time we can raise money for the third and final phase. So it will actually make, I think that if we do raise this money, it will actually make the whole barn possible, and we will soon see it finished in the early part of next year.
Oh, and one last question is, how can South African Abillion ambassadors support Greyton?
So how can South African
ambassadors here, or just Abillion ambassadors in general, support Greyton?
Well, I think to continue reviewing on Abillion and to spread the word, to share is the most important thing. We have had the most enormous amount of support, where we didn't give too much notice about the September double dollars, because obviously we didn't want people to save up their reviews and then a whole load in September. We wanted to see how successful the campaign is, and that would have skewed it a bit. So we only started promoting it 3 days ago, letting people know it's going to happen. But what we've done is we've managed to get a whole load of prizes, including a luxury spa beachfront in Plettenberg Bay for 2 people for 2 nights. Plus, we've got 2 people for 2 nights at the sanctuary. Plus, restaurants are providing meals, and all the people who make just about everybody who makes really good the vegan milks, the yogurts, the cheeses, the fake meats, they're all contributing to a big hamper. And we've got an artist who designs beautiful vegan t-shirts with animals on and kindness and compassion written. And she's offered to do a special commission for the winner, so it could have their favorite animal and the words they want on it. So we're gathering more prizes all the time, and over the next month we're going to highlight each donor of a prize every single day in order to keep it fresh and to inspire people to carry on giving and reviewing, and thereby giving to our cause.
Cool. Thank you, Nikki, for sharing. Before we hit into the questions and answers, so I think you mentioned the double donations. We'll just talk a little bit about what's coming up next on Abillion, and I'll just hand it over to Sarah.
Thanks, Jess. Thanks, Nicky and Garth. Okay, cool. Yeah, so just a quick overview of the evolution of the Abillion app over the last 6 months. So something we've been working really, really hard for a while now is actually social posts. So if you guys notice, you can now share more than just reviews on Abillion. Thanks, Jess. Yeah, so you can share recipes, you can share tips for sustainability, you can share anything with your followers, really. Share an article. Yeah, and actually recipes is something that a lot of our members have requested. They're always asking, oh, can I share a recipe on the app? So this feature was something that we're very excited to launch. Another huge feature that we launched a few months ago is actually $1 donations. So previously you had to post 10 reviews for us to donate $10. And right now with $1 donation, every time you post a review, you can instantly unlock a $1 credit and then choose a cause that you would like to support. And upcoming, hopefully by end of this year, if not Q1 next year, we are also going to launch videos for social posts. So we're really trying to make the app a lot more interactive. And as you guys know, as Abillion members, the community is really tight and supportive and interactive. So I think videos will be a really exciting one. It will change the way how we interact with each other on Abillion. So keep a lookout for that. And 2 campaigns that we have. So one is currently ongoing, the double commission campaign. So every review written by anyone in your audience will generate 50 cents for you guys. And as Josh and Nikki has mentioned, we are doing double donations for Greyton this month. So it's for September, so it's actually live now. So every review for the entire month of September will donate $2 to Greyton.
So yeah, I'll just touch a little bit more about how the double donations work. So when you write a review and you make your usual donation, it'll still appear like if you wrote 2 reviews and you're making a $2 donation to Greyton, Abillion will actually double that amount at the end of the month. So you may not see it directly on the app, but we'll keep you guys informed as to how much the amount is as well. That's going to be doubled. And I think the last is questions. So we'll open it up to the floor. You feel free to ask questions to us, to Nikki or Garth. If anyone has any questions, just feel free to unmute yourself. I think it's a fairly small group here. Or if you're too shy, you can drop it in the little chat box as well.
I have a question. So, how do all the ambassadors feel about the double commission campaigns so far? And would you like us to, or would you like Abillion to do any more exciting campaigns in future? Any ideas? Anything great?
Well, obviously, I have to. I'm all for it because we are benefiting. But I think if I put my ambassador hat on, and Garth will obviously have something to say here as well. I think it really does boost our efforts. It shows that a billion is on it and is making new suggestions all the time and helping to generate more income for sanctuaries and other causes. So I do think that this is a great initiative, and I know that other sanctuaries have benefited, and I hope that going forward there will be other causes and sanctuaries, especially ones who have special appeal going on, who really do need money very urgently for something in particular, especially when it can be measurable. So when the barn is built, we can actually say the billion was the reviewers from the billion were major contributors, obviously reviewers and the billion itself. And I think that's it's a very positive step for a billion. And so as an ambassador, it's good news. And as a beneficiary, well, I can't thank you enough.
Okay, that's great to hear. I have one question for Garth as well. Like, what is your favorite platform to talk about a billion on?
I think it's really just the one that for me has the most followers, so it has the most traction. I've noticed there's a very big difference in terms of my audience on Instagram versus Facebook versus Twitter. So I can post exactly the same content across all three platforms, and the engagement on that content will be completely different. I can post something that I deem really mundane on Instagram, and it'll do really well, but it'll do terribly on Facebook, and no one will engage with it on Twitter. So I think because of how a billion works, I think it's most popular in terms of age group and demographic, maybe on Instagram. I've noticed that on Facebook, people seem to interact with it slightly less, but that's just from my personal experience and sort of the audience members or my followers rather. So I definitely put most of my focus into Instagram and Insta stories.
Cool. We got a question from Savannah. So is it possible for members to sign up and review on the website, or is it only possible on the app?
So right now you can sign up and review on the website. Also, the experience is not that great. We are a very app-focused company, so yeah, I mean, we are working on web, I promise you, but we are a very small team, and we are trying to do a lot within a very short period of time. So app is where the best experience is, and it's very seamless. But yeah, as of now, you can sign up on the website and post a review there.
I think with ambassadors specifically, I'm not sure if the referral code is there when you try to sign up at the moment. So I think I might have to check in on that. And also with the donation, when you write reviews and donation, because of the logic on the website, like Sweta mentioned, is a couple of versions, and I don't mean like one or two, I mean like several months, years behind. The donation wall kind of gets hit a little too early, and it does slow down when you can donate as well. So yeah, the best experience is still the app. Although we do still have users who are reviewing on the web, and obviously browsing and things like that is still able to do all of that. Are there any more questions?
I actually just want to add something about the question about how do we feel about the double donations this month. It's a very strange, actually, I don't really know what I'm going to say, but I'm just going to sort of speak and whatever comes out. I apologize. I think it's such an interesting thing with this phenomenon of doing charity and charity work, but still having to eat at the end of the day. And I've often sort of paralleled it with what Nicola does, is she runs a sanctuary, but at the end of the day, she still has a life and she still has needs. And as someone who runs a charity, she still has to eat at the end of the day and go for a massage, once a year when she has time, when she's not feeding the pigs or whatever. And she needs to go away on a holiday and stuff. And maybe this is just sharing my thoughts with the other ambassadors, is I felt really weird about taking money in the beginning from this cause. I felt like I was somewhat cheating to some extent. But life always throws, and I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but life always throws these things at you where your car breaks down and it's 17,000 Rand to fix it, which in South African money is a lot. Or the website that I host, I don't earn any money on it whatsoever. I don't earn a cent, but I pay 5,000 Rand a year to have that website available to the public. So over 5 years, it's cost me 25,000 Rand just to run the Cape Town Vegan platform without any reimbursement. So I think what is amazing is that I sort of feel okay with how the ambassador program works, because I feel like I'm doing lots of good. I'm doing something for the cause, but I'm also sort of supporting myself in the process, if that makes any sense. I know I'm rambling a little bit. But that abillion money has now paid for the website last year. It paid for the website this year, and it's incredibly helpful because, like a lot of us, especially because of COVID, have lost our jobs or we've had a reduction in salary. I haven't had a raise of work in 2 years. I'm a musician, so I haven't played any gigs for almost 2 years as well. So that income has completely dried up as well. So I think it is empowering to have a side hustle that allows you to have a stream of extra income, however big or however small, plus also that you're doing something good at the end of the day. So I just thought I'd share that.
Oh, that's great to hear. I mean, we only, Abillion as a platform only just started in the last 2 years or so, and ambassador program also started in just like 2 years. But eventually, like as you grow your audience, and once like they are regulars on the app and they're posting, a lot of ambassadors don't realize that this is going to accumulate to a lot eventually in the next 2 to 3 years. And obviously the incentive is meant for everyone to spread the word of plant-based living, to get more people involved in the movement. So everything is going towards trying to do good. At least that's the intention. And as much as we want to share everything with the charities and nonprofits, we also want to empower the ambassadors to spread the word and spread the basically talk more about the cause and spread the movement, get more people involved.
Yeah, and I think that's a very common, like what Garth mentions, actually, we've heard it from a couple of other ambassadors as well, where, especially when you, in the beginning, so still work, but once you have your regulars coming in, if you kind of go off for like a month, these people are continually writing reviews and donations, so you're still earning commissions even after that. And so, yeah, it's really good to hear that too.
Cool. I guess no one else has any questions.
I just want to say thank you because I'm new. I'm a new ambassador. So it was so helpful and it was brilliant to meet all of you. And it was just, I'm just excited for all the new options that are coming on the app. And just thank you very much. And it was very informative and I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us today. And, we've got a couple of familiar faces now. So if you drop us an email, you know who's on the other end. I know for a lot of people, especially because our team is based in Singapore and we're still a fairly small team. We're about 30 to 40 people on our team right now. Obviously, our largest team is our engineering team, who are always working tirelessly. Our whole tech team working tirelessly to make sure that the app keeps getting better. Compared to 2 years ago, maybe when Garth and Nicky both joined Abillion, the app has improved so much. But not just the dollar donation and reviewing, we mean exploring and finding things and finding options and finding dishes and restaurants to go to. And we've actually been hearing a lot of stories from people who have, used the app because they've been able to find us options to go vegan. So I think that's really what we're really hoping to do on a larger scale. I think Garth had
Actually, sorry, I wanted to add something quickly. I think it's really funny. So I spent 5 years developing this website that obviously has all the eateries across South Africa, and my partner doesn't use it. He actually uses the Abillion app. So when we're away, he'll go, oh, I wonder where there are restaurants. I'm like, just go onto my website. He's like, no, never mind, I'm on the Abillion app. And then he'll sit scrolling. So I'm now redundant thanks to the Abillion app, which is fine. I'm so cool with that. But that finding food option is amazing. It's really good.
Well, Garth, your impact is huge because I'm sitting here because of you as well. So just think about it that way.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Nicky and Garth for joining us today and sharing about the ambassador programs and the work that the nonprofits are doing. They really, it's even for people at home, people here in Singapore who are working on the app, it's always great to hear that, sometimes you're just like sitting down coding or writing emails. It's great to hear that we're still making a huge impact on this halfway across the world. And same thing with Garth. So yes, if you guys are, obviously you guys are all on Abillion, so if you like to follow us, do follow us with our little handles here. Nicky's got two because with social posts now, a lot of our nonprofit partners are coming on board and using social posts to share about their impact. So that's Greyton Farms handle. Thank you so much for everyone who joined us today. I guess we'll see you soon.
Thank you all.
Guys, thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good day, guys.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye.